Hi, I've decided that I want to record another DE tutorial video because we've had a lot of new people coming into the Discord lately, and I figured might as well, this is the last day I'll be able to have a decent recording set up. So the first thing you're going to want to do, if you have a natural hairbrush, so a boar or badger, like I have today, I am using an Omega Pro 48 boar, is you're going to want to leave it soaking in some warm water for, 5 to 10 minutes. It'll just soften up the bristles and make it more comfortable on your face and less brittle. Then the next step is to take your soap. Today I'm using Southern Witchcraft's and their collaboration with Australian Private Reserve, Gravefruit, which is a very nice, bright, complex citrusy scent. And I'm using my Karve Christopher Bradley. This is a very comfortable razor. Not much to say about that. So, you're going to take your brush after it's been soaking, flick most of the water out of it, and the sink should look a little bit like that. And then you're going to take your soap, and you're just going to swirl it on the surface of you're just going to swirl your brush on the surface of the soap like that. Doesn't have to be terribly long. Southern Witchcraft's is on the softer end, so it shouldn't take me much more than like 20 seconds, even though this is on the larger end and it's a natural hair knot, so they tend to absorb a bit of the lather. If you're using a synthetic knot, you should load for a bit less time because they don't hold on to quite as much of the lather. I like to load quite wet, so what I just did there was I dipped just the tips of my brush in the water again, and I'm going to continue swirling. Some people time it. You should probably time it near the start. Go for around, for a natural hairbrush, depending on the soap, 20 to 40 seconds should be good. 20 seconds for some that are quite soft, like Highland Springs Soap Co. kind of springs to mind, but for harder ones, like Bear Stearns Man's quite hard, you want to give it a decent load. And basically you want to end up with something that looks kind of like this. This should be plenty of soap. And I'm a face latherer. I like to build my lather on the face. Gives you a lot of nice exfoliation. What I like to do is, see all the kind of proto-lather there in the tub? I like to scoop it out and then just massage a bit of it into my face like so. Gives you a solid base to work from and doesn't hurt. And then I just rinse out my soap tubs. Again, you don't have to do that. I just find it makes it look nicer rather than having a whole bunch of soap scum built up on it. And then I just let it dry for a couple hours. Then you're just going to take your brush and paint on a nice thick layer of lather. So this is very pasty in texture right now. It's not what the final product's going to look like. So this is a boar knot, and boar knots favor kind of more painting with it, whereas for a lot of synthetics and for badgers, you're going to want to push it in and splay it like that. But I always recommend for the first bit, just paint it on. Now I've got a decent load of proto-lather on me, so I'm going to dunk the tips of my brush in again and paint some water in. And every soap is different with this. Southern Witchcraft's is one that is quite easy to lather up. It's a vegan soap, and in my opinion, it is probably the best vegan soap on the market. They have a lot of more out there scents though. There's a tip from, I can't remember what the name of the guy who gave this tip, but it is a really good one. You should wet the tips of your brush and splay and scrub until you can kind of see the skin underneath, and then paint the lather over. And you're just going to want to kind of go at this until it's reached a bit of a foamy consistency and feels nice and slick and wet on the face. And then, because the rule of thumb is put water until you have enough and then just add a little bit more, you just keep adding more. This doesn't have to take forever. I see some of the shave tubers lather for like 15 minutes almost, like Jack at the Virtual Groom Room, who does a great lather, but he just takes forever. You can get this done in like 2 minutes once you're familiar with the soap. This is starting to come together decently. I think I'm just going to do this last pass here with water and get to shaving. If you can hear something in the background, I just have my Marty Robbins record playing. Alright. Seems decent. Building a lather has a bit of a technique and skill to it. It'll take you a while to get it a super crazy lather like you'll see a lot of the people who shave for YouTube are gonna have, but as long as it's well hydrated, it'll be great. So next you're gonna take your razor, and what I like to do is you're gonna kind of put the top cap on there and then tilt it until you can just feel the blade and then stroke. You're gonna wanna do nice short strokes. And I do a 3-pass shave. So I do with the grain, across the grain, and then against the grain. So my facial hair grows down on my face. So for my face, I'm going to be going down. And just make sure you flip this every once in a while. And then on my neck, I like to do 2 across the grain passes. So my neck grows in towards my throat, and then in the middle here, it grows down. So for my neck, I'm doing across the grain right now. The difference between the passes is basically with the grain is going to be comfortable, but it's not necessarily going to get rid of as much of the growth, but it's going to knock down a significant amount of it. So when you go to do a heavier pass later, you won't have irritation. And you can pop out your cheeks or stretch the skin a bit if you're having trouble getting access to the area you're shaving. It's recommended to stretch the skin a little. This can be a bit of a problem if you have a very slick soap, which Southern Witchcrafts is. Alright, so you can see most of the visible growth is gone, but if I rub it on there, I can still feel a lot of it. So I like to go for more passes. Just paint more lather on. You don't necessarily need to go as hard for the follow-up passes because you've already gotten rid of most of the growth. And you should still have a layer of residual left behind. Alright, so this is thinner than the first pass, but it's still nice, it's slick, it's got a lot of water in it, and slickness is, bar none, the most important part of a soap. You're gonna take your razor. I like to stretch out my ear a bit just because it makes getting into that area a bit easier. And so this is my across the grain pass. So as I said before, my face growth grows down, so I'm going across it like this. So this will again get rid of more of the growth, but it won't get rid of all of it. It's just about being comfortable. And then, as I said before, again, my growth on my neck goes into the throat. So I am going against the grain again, or across the grain again, by going up like so. And then yeah, For rinsing your razor, there's no hard and fast rules to it. Just rinse it whenever it seems to get clogged. You can switch hands. When I'm shaving with a straight razor, I prefer to switch hands. But for a safety razor, I just use my right hand all the way around. Alright, so one other thing I like to do in between my passes, sorry for the tap noises, I try to avoid it when possible, but you know, one other thing I like to try to do in between passes is I get some warm water and I just rinse down my face. It helps because you get to massage your face a bit, feel where some patches you might have missed have been, and it also provides an extra layer of water when you're putting your lather back on. So, a lot of people skip the against the grain pass because it irritates their skin. However, I need a very close shave and I don't get irritation from it. So I'm gonna go ahead and lather up for a third pass. As you can see, it's gotten even thinner for this last one. It's just most of the soap is running out. And you don't need, again, you don't need a super thick layer of soap. You just need it to be slick. It's going to be different for everyone for stretching out your skin, but I find if you're trying to get up under your nose, or under your nose on your upper lip, you just puff out your lip. If you're trying to go through this area, I will enfold my lower lip up a bit, stretch out the ears to get the sideburns, and twist for the neck. So some of that stuff is helpful. I'm really young, I've got really nice tight skin, so I don't have to stretch it all that much. For some of you older folks, you might have a bit more of an issue with that, and then you can just you can just put a couple fingers in and stretch it out like that. It's not as essential for a DE shave, but for a straight razor shave, it is really important to have a nice taut skin. Alright, it's a nice thick, well not thick, but it's a nice kind of third pass lather we've built up here. And I'm about ready to go. So for my against the grain, I actually like to start on my neck, and as mentioned, like 4 times, my neck, or my throat kind of, it grows weird, so I just go in the, and I like to start here for it. And it's not uncommon to have swirls where your growth kind of goes in all directions. I actually have one about here. So I have to come at it from the side, and I also usually have to do a bit of cleanup from a few different angles there. Again, perfectly normal. It's all just about your beard mapping, which the way to do that is to kind of give yourself a little bit of stubble, a day or 2 of growth, and then just kind of rub over your skin. Whatever direction that you feel the most resistance in would be against the grain. So for me, I feel the most resistance going this way, so I know that the grain of my growth goes this way, so I want to go like that to go against the grain, or this to go across the grain. However, as mentioned, I have a little swirl here. Your beard mapping will be different than mine. Everyone's is different. So you can do what's called buffing, which is where you go over an area that doesn't have soap. With the artisan soaps, you're going to have plenty of residual slickness. They're almost all incredibly, incredibly good. This is a very good time to be into wet shaving. And yeah, you're just going to want to go for against the grain. I like to feel it, make sure I've gotten everything with that pass. There's a bit of a rough spot here, so I might go over that with a cleanup. I might not. It's all up to how you're feeling that day. And then I find the upper lip to be very tricky with a DE. So I've got pretty full lips, so I roll my lips in a lot. And then I just kind of come in at it. I don't actually have to shave the middle there because that's just scar tissue. I had a cleft lip as a kid. You're just going to want to be very, very careful here. Very slow, no pressure. And if you feel anything cutting, stop. That's a big thing with the DE, is apply very, very little pressure. As you can see, I'm literally just holding this with 2 fingers at the top and then like 1 at the back to balance it. And I'm not applying any pressure. It's just all in the angle and letting the blade glide over your skin. Alright. And you're going to want to see if there's any trouble, if there's any spots you missed. I've got a little bit here and a little bit kind of here. We're going to go over it again. But again, if you're only missing a couple spots, there's no need to re-lather your whole face. Just go, okay, I should redo here, I'm just gonna lather my neck again. And just go with it. And again, no pressure. That's the very most important thing here, is no pressure, very light touch. Again, I'm only holding this with 2 fingers. And just let the weight of the razor and the sharp blade do its work. You shouldn't be pressing into your skin, you should just let it glide. Probably would have been best if I mentioned that at the start of this video, but hopefully someone will watch all the way through before they finish off the tutorial. Alright. There we go, you can feel it. Need a little bit of a touch up there, but again, that's all down to your own beard mapping. Everyone will have different trouble spots. Now that I've finished the shave, what I like to do is I give myself a warm water rinse to get everything off, and then I go towel down my face. Then I'm running the tap on cold right now so it gets nice and cold, and I just like to give myself a splash with that. Conventional wisdom says that closes the pores, but that's not actually a thing. I just find it helps tighten the skin and, you know, makes it a bit nicer. And then once I've done that cold water splash, I don't rub my face, I just press it in. Like you would be at the barber and they just press it in. Next thing is you're going to want to apply your aftershave. Always shake thoroughly before you are putting it on, because the alcohol, or witch hazel in this case, will have separated from the fragrance oils, and if you don't shake it, it's going to burn the shit out of you and not smell very nice. So give it a nice good shake. Put some into your palm. You do not need very much. Like, that's a bit of an excessive amount, but you saw there hardly any. Rub your hands together. Apply it to everywhere you've shaved. If it's alcohol, it's probably going to give you a bit of a burn. If you went for a witch hazel based one, it probably won't. And there you go. It'll disinfect and clean up your skin and get it all nice and tight. Next, the last thing you're going to want to do is clean out your brush. Really easy to do that. All you do is run it under some water, squeeze out the bristles towards the end. You don't have to go too hard, but you should squeeze it out with a decent amount of pressure. For a newbie brush that you probably spent like 10 bucks on, don't worry about damaging it. Just worry about getting it clean. If you've got like a friggin' $450 Badger, what are you doing watching this video? You probably already know how to shave. And you're just gonna wanna squeeze it out under the tap until it runs clear. And then turn off your water, flick it out again, like you did right at the start of the shave. Get your hands nice and dry, and just keep squeezing kind of gently until not much more water flow comes out. And I just like to run my palm along it like that to spread out the bristles a bit so it gets a better airflow. And then you're just going to want to let this sit for 12 hours until the next time you have to shave in an area that's not too humid. I like to just take it out of my bathroom and go put it in my bedroom and let it sit on a shelf in there. Just anywhere where it's not going to get wet again. Because with natural hairbrushes, it does run the risk of them getting pretty gross if you don't let them dry properly. With synthetics, it's not as big of a deal, but it's still worth doing. The other part of maintenance that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your razor apart after your shave. This is just a standard 3-piece. Just twist the bottom up. Take it apart. Take your razor blade out. Don't touch the edge because that's sharp. And then just dry everything off. Grab a towel. It's because some metals can corrode each other. This is a brass razor. If you do not dry brass thoroughly after it gets wet, you'll get some spots on it. I didn't do the best job taking care of this one. I don't know if it'll focus, but you can see there's a few spots on it up near the top. Make sure to take your razor apart. Take the blade out, let all the parts dry separately. It's not the end of the world if you don't, but it's going to make your nice pretty razor get spots on it and look gross. All right, and that's your shave done. Good luck.